You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Hello and welcome into another edition of Mizzou That's Who, your podcast for Missouri Athletics here on KC Sports Network. I'm Tucker Franklin. As always, I'm joined by Gabe DeArmond and Maggie Johnson, and we have a special guest today. Today's guest is coming off back-to-back 30-point games versus two top 20 opponents. It's Kobe Brown. Kobe, how are you doing, man? And how have these past few days been for you after these huge games?
Really good. My birthday just passed. It was yesterday, so I'm feeling really good right now.
Kobe, now you might be shocked to know that none of the three of us have ever experienced this, but I'm just curious. Back-to-back games, you have walked to the free throw line and heard an entire arena basically chanting your name. I saw you kind of tweeted out a video of that. I mean, what's that feeling like when you kind of look around and you have 15,000 people chanting your name?
Man, it's so surreal. It's something you dream of. Like I was telling, talking to my brother about it the other day. Like on NBA 2K, you score like 50 points with like LeBron or somebody, you go to the line and they just screaming MVP or whatnot. It's just a moment you never would think will happen to you. And it was just so surreal. And I love this place.
We love it too. I think I tweeted that at you yesterday, that we love having you here. But happy birthday, happy new year. I kind of wanted to ask you how it feels because you've been at Mizzou for a while and, you've played in all sorts of crowd levels, I guess you could say. How does it feel to see the fans like fully buy into what you guys are doing?
Oh man, it's amazing. It's amazing. Having that support is always good. It makes us better. It's easier to, play basketball when you have so much support behind you in the arena and just in the community every day. So, we really appreciate all our fans, and they're huge for us.
You had a couple big games here. You're starting that conference stretch, starting this conference play. You guys go into conference play now after beating Kentucky ranked in the AP poll. How has that been? Has it been kind of a little bit of a reward to how you guys have been playing recently, or do you guys even think about that at all?
It's good to have the ranking because, you just want to see that, your hard work is paying off and that, people are recognizing it. But, we don't really care too much about it. We just want to keep doing what we're doing. What we're doing is working. We need to stay together and just keep knocking off the Giants. And, that's all our main goal is.
Kobe, what changed in the last 2 to 3 weeks? Not just for you, but for this team. I mean, it's easy to look from the outside and say, the KU game, all of a sudden, maybe there was a wake-up call or something, or did anything change?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say, like, every loss, like I said, is we like to take it as a learning moment instead of just like a loss and brush on the rug. So, with that, I know the loss was pretty bad, but it was a learning point and it helped us grow. And I want to say, like, we're more of a team after that. You have to go through stuff for things to get better. And I know that was a big focal point in our season. I'm not happy about what happened, but I'm glad, we got the learning opportunity from it.
I think everyone can kind of see how close you are. It's really cool to see from the outside. We saw Coach Gates like jump on your back while you were doing an interview, and it was such a cool like moment as a Mizzou fan and as somebody who truly loves this university. What would a tournament, getting into the tournament and like winning a game in the tournament mean for you?
Man, it would be huge. It's always been my dream at first it was my dream to go to the tournament, and then I accomplished that. Now but the second part of that is to, win in the tournament. And I haven't been able to do that. I know we lost the first game against Oklahoma 2 years ago, so that was a bummer. But, just being able to make it back this year and, really the goal is to win it. But, winning the game would be great, especially for the fans. I know they would love it. So, we got to do what we can to make that happen.
I want to talk about your relationship with Coach Gates because, as Maggie mentioned, we got to see that come through after the Kentucky game. You sticking around with Coach Gates even when he comes to Missouri, brings in a whole lot of new guys. You're one of 3 returners on this team. You talked about why you stuck around to Mizzou. You call it home. It's been one of those places for you. But how big has Dennis been for your game? I know that he's kind of been big for the program, but how has he been specifically big for you in the development of your game?
Huge. He's been huge. Coach works with me all the time. From when he first got the job, before I even made my decision to stay, he was helping me then. We had he calls them 20-minute hits. So they were like 20-minute workouts, just one-on-one, me, him, and then, some managers rebounding and whatnot. But yeah, so he's been working, he's been helping me even before he knew I was, going to play for him. So, that's big. He's definitely, he's big on confidence. So he pumps confidence into our heads. So that's another plus. And yeah, I'm really thankful for him. Just being able to tie in what I've learned from Coach Martin and Coach Gates, it's like, it's big for me. So I'm really grateful for both of them.
I always joke about Coach Gates, like those of us on the outside, if you look at Coach Gates on the sideline, look, we got no idea if you guys are up 30, down 30. Every press conference, like he is even keel. We know what he's going to say before he says it, all that. How different is the guy we see publicly from the guy that you guys see every day?
It's not that big of a difference, truthfully. Even in practice, we have like highlight plays. Aiden might go put his head in the rim or something. It's the same serious look the whole time. But he is a good all-around guy, though. He does joke and laugh, but when it comes to basketball, it's serious, it's straightforward, and he means business, and that's what we need as a team.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this question. I'm sure I can, but I don't know if you might answer it like differently. So obviously you've been playing yourself into the NBA. Like, we're watching it in front of our eyes. It's amazing. You also have a year of eligibility left. Here. Yeah. So do you know if you're 100% sold, or will you wait until after the season to kind of decide that?
Yeah, that's definitely after the season. I thought I haven't really thought too much of it. I've been trying to just keep progressing because anyone play well for a certain amount of time and then go backwards. So I'm just trying not to let that happen. Trying to keep winning as a team and keep, I just want to make history here at Mizzou as a team, and that's my main goal. So when that time comes, though, I'll be sure to get you guys an answer. But yeah.
We'll just wait for the Twitter video that announces what you're doing.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
I want to talk about that team because you've got some guys that have really stepped up. Dre Golson, you got Nick Honor, who's been a big point guard on the team, a guy who's been at kind of this big level on the ACC. He played for Clemson. You got guys from all over coming in. How has that kind of been the gelling process? We talked to Dre a little bit about kind of the gelling process happening in the summer. What have you seen from these guys, and how's your relationship with teammates coming from all over places? How's that kind of helped you guys so far this season?
I feel like it's helped us because it brings like different, it's different knowledge from all these different programs and coaches and communities and whatnot. So it's like all of that's coming into one, and it can't do anything but make this place even better, if that makes sense. So and then the fact that all these guys are just great, genuine people. It's like it's easy to just gel with each other and just bring our knowledge together, and it just creates even bigger knowledge here, or an even bigger thing here at Mizzou. So it's all a great thing.
We're kind of getting into the point where your lives become a little bit more regular now. You play Saturday, you play Tuesday or Wednesday, and everything kind of develops a rhythm here. Yeah. Next one up, you're at Arkansas, and I'm just curious. Obviously, Travon Brazils not going to play in this game, but fans look at college basketball and college sports now, and guys are moving all over, playing against teams they were on last year, and fans have certain feelings about it. When you're involved in that, I mean, like when you're seeing that, you still got a good relationship with Travon, and will you guys, chat before the game on Saturday?
Oh, yeah. Me, Trev, me and Trev, we talked like 2 or 3 days ago, I believe. Actually, we spoke yesterday too. He wished me happy birthday. No, we talk all the time. I talked to Anton. I just got off the phone with Amari 2 days ago. All those guys, we still keep in touch. We're still as if they were all still here. Me and Trev was talking about seeing each other at or after the game, before the game, whatever case may be. We're still consider each other brothers and whatnot. Nothing's really changed on our end. I understand the fans, how they may feel about it, but at the end of the day, I respect both sides. He has to do what he thought was best for him, and I have to do what I thought was best for me. So, I'm at peace with everything, and that's still my guy at the end of the day.
Kind of piggybacking on that a little bit, with everything with the transfer portal that's going on, would you say that players have kind of a responsibility to help with recruiting these days, or do you think that it's kind of still left to the staff, or what's your opinion on that?
Truthfully, as a player, I feel like having other players involved is a plus because a lot of times some of the players will tell you what you don't get from maybe the staff and whoever the case may be. So I know, speaking from experience, when I was going through the process, I was reaching out to, like, I would talk on my visits, I would talk to the players about the stuff you might not want to ask the coaches, or the coaches might not want to talk to you about. But yeah, no, the players are a big part of recruiting. Of course, the staff is, and then now, you got the NIL stuff. So I don't know how the process works with all that with, high school kids. But I'll be interested to see. But yeah, it all goes hand in hand. But yeah, players are a big part of recruiting.
We're not really sure how it works either. We're just trying to figure it out.
Nobody
too.
knows.
I think everyone's trying to figure it out. But Kobe, I want to talk about kind of a little bit more about your teammates. Who's one guy in practice that, if you guys do a little bit of one-on-one, that you don't want to see going one-on-one? Who's a problem when he's got the rock in his hands?
Don't want to see? Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a
Or you think you can take anybody?
I feel like I can take anyone, but I mean, that's just, personally. But I mean, I don't know. We got a lot of good one-on-one players, like especially in the one-on-one area. Of course, Zay Mosley, like he's one of the best scorers in the country. You got Drake Golston, he's skilled and strong at the same time. You got Trey Gomillion, believe it or not, he's a really good one-on-one player. You see how he plays in pickup. It's a whole different guy. But no, we got a lot of guys who can just break. Believe it or not, Caleb's really, really skilled. Demoy Hodge, man, I don't know. It goes down the line. There's a lot of guys.
Everyone.
See that is a senior answer for you. You asked for one guy and he lists off his whole roster. Man. That's how it's done.
I'm serious, but like it's a lot of good one-on-one talent. Believe it or not, and that's why it's like in late shot clock, we're not like it's hard to, like, it's really easy to handle late shot clock situations because anyone just break off and do whatever. So it's fun. I'm excited for that though.
Kobe, last thing from me, you guys have, I mean, you started this season, I think, off of most people's radar and nobody knew what to expect. Obviously, you guys handled that pretty well. Look, you're human beings. You see the number next to your name. Entire businesses exist on let's predict the NCAA tournament field every single day.
Yeah,
I know the mantra is one game at a time. We're only focused on Arkansas. I get that. Is that hard to do though, with where you guys have, what's happened the last couple of weeks?
I feel like it can be for some teams, and I feel like often maybe us a little bit, but it's like Coach Gates does a great job of keeping us locked in on the next game. Like he tells us all the time, our biggest opponent is ourselves, whether that's leading up to a game, the day of a game, or halftime. Like as long as we handle our business and take care of ourselves, then we should be fine regardless of whatever the team is or whoever the team is or whatever they're doing. So we just got to keep that mindset to where it's like, okay, we can only beat ourselves, and that keeps it easy to handle all the outside things and such. So
last kind of question for me is a non-basketball question, but the people of Como probably want to know. You're from down in Alabama. The food in the South, it hits hard.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Como spot?
Favorite Como spot for food? Ooh. I don't know. Okay. Well, I go to Chipotle a lot, but if my favorite, it would probably have to be.
Me too.
Yeah, it would probably have to be like, I don't know. It's between like Buzz Barbecue and Big Daddy's Barbecue. I'm a big barbecue guy, so I like both of those spots. But yeah, no, it's a lot of places here.
Here in Missouri, we understand that barbecue sauce is supposed to be red, not white, also. So that's
really?
progress over Alabama.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I like both though.
Kobe, I got a couple questions for you. First, I kind of want to ask, how do you guys, beating a Kentucky, being a blue blood like that, how do you guys kind of stay? I know Dennis is very even keel, stuff like that. Does he make it easy to stay even keel going to a game like Arkansas? It's a big rivalry game. Does he make you guys not get too high after that one to have a little bit of a letdown in this game?
Oh, definitely. He does a great job with that. But I feel like with us, especially, we didn't look at it as if we're playing some giant. You know what I mean? We went in that game expecting to win, so that really helps with it too. So it keeps us like level and not too high on ourselves, because we didn't expect nothing less. We knew they were a good team and it was going to be a dogfight, but we did expect to, come out on top. So that helped.
Last one. I know that you're on Twitter. You've got to see the Dennis memes. You got to see all the memes about Dennis. Have you seen them? Well, I want to get your thoughts on all of the different memes about him.
I haven't seen a lot. I've seen a few. Like Ben talks about one in particular all the time. It's the one where he has like the red eyes, like the Terminator or whatever it is, and then like the post where whenever we're gonna win, they'll say like, "You just lost to whatever Dennis Gate."
Win his weights. Win
his weight. Yeah, the red eyes. That's all.
That's good stuff.
All right. I know I said last one, but I got one more thing. You started out talking about kind of surreal hearing fans chant your name. I'm sure you had to have seen the stat after the Kentucky game that you're now the second guy in college basketball history to score 30 against back-to-back ranked teams. And the only other one is Steph Curry. What's it like for an entire basketball list to consist of your name and Steph Curry's name?
Man, that was crazy. That was huge. Matter of fact, Jason told me right after the game, like what that was, like about that. He also told me I was 1 point shy of my 1,000-point mark, which that hurt. But I would love to get that with the home crowd. But anyway, but no, that's huge though. I was shocked to see that. Just to be mentioned in the same field with a guy like Stephen Curry is amazing. So. That's huge. That's huge. Well, glad to make
Kobe,
history here too. So
absolutely. Excited for you to get that 1,000-point mark. Happy birthday. Everything seems to be going right for you. We appreciate you hopping on, joining us for a little bit, and good luck this week against both Vanderbilt and Arkansas.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, big thanks to Kobe Brown for joining us on today's podcast. Great conversation with him. Great guy. Fun to talk to him, and I had to bring up the Dennis Gates memes. I didn't bring that up to Dre, but I thought Kobe was the perfect guy to bring up all of the social media stuff, because he's the veteran, he's the senior, he's the guy that you can take this stuff to, and really good conversation with him.
I love seeing all those memes too.
and really, I mean, the Dennis Gates memes are that's the hard hitting stuff people come to us for. That's the important stuff for sure.
Absolutely. And I've been making the meme compilation videos on Twitter whenever they win. So heard it here first. I had to ask about it. It was my role, but two big wins for this Missouri basketball team. I know that I thought it was interesting. Kobe said that Dennis had them believing that they were going to win that game going into it, and they didn't treat him like a giant, which is great, because I think if you would have told me that, Missouri would have beat Kentucky, I would have said which sport. Probably in what vein, but great game from them. They shot lights out. They played incredibly well defensively. Everything was going right. The crowd was incredible. Just on TV, you could see how ruckus that crowd was and how Mizzou Arena had life in it. It was an incredible game to watch. And one of those is I was watching on one screen Kansas meltdown against in the Liberty Bowl. Great to see. Even though that the comeback was good. And on the other screen, I was watching Missouri kind of tear up Kentucky a little bit. And I was like, man, I don't know if it gets any better than this.
It was kind of a replay of the Illinois game. I thought Kentucky played a little bit better than Illinois did. But, I mean, both those games, Illinois was 22. Kentucky in the end was, 14? And neither one of them felt that close. I mean, you felt like Missouri easily could have won by more. They kind of took the foot off the gas with 3 or 4 minutes left, which is a great spot to be in. But what I took out of that game was, and Kobe talked about it a little bit, that I watched the KU game and I just thought they weren't ready. It's not fair to say they were scared or that it was too big for them, because that's projecting things that I don't know if that's fair for us to say. But the play that kind of just totally emblemized that game, that's not a word, I don't think, but I can't think of the right word, but is when Aiden Shaw goes chest to chest with Oscar Tshiebwe and just wrestles him for the ball for 50. I mean, that's look, you may beat us, you may be better than us, but we don't really care that your jersey says Kentucky and that we're not supposed to be as good as you. Sometime in the last couple of weeks, I think Dennis convinced this team, like, hey, don't go in intimidated. You're good enough to beat anybody you want to.
And as I'm sure most people listening to this podcast know, Oscar Tshiebwe is the National Player of the Year. You know, he still had a double-double in the first half against us.
Oh, yeah.
And
he was great.
He was great. But I think Kobe and Noah Carter did a great job defending. They did, they stayed in front of him. They didn't let the ball get behind them. I think they did a great job, regardless of how many points he scored, because he was their only factor. Oscar was their only factor in that game. I mean, and the guy that made 5 threes.
It seemed like to me they had two different game plans for that game. In the first half, they said literally anyone except Oscar has to beat us. We're going to send 3 guys at him every time he touches the ball. If we lose this game, it's not going to be because of him. And then in the second half, it almost became a thing of, that's fine. Give him his, because you can't come back to it at a time.
Yeah.
He can have whatever. These other guys aren't going to beat us. And I mean, we're only 13 games into this season. I refuse to build the statue or give Dennis the coach of the year or anything, but you are seeing things that seem sustainable with this team, and they are getting better. And I mean, you are seeing in-game adjustments and things that you're looking at a team that the talent does not say they should be this good, right? They're better than the talent says they should be.
I think it's really interesting too. The change in this team has been defensively. I think that's really been what the spark of this team has become. You've seen them play really well defensively, from the press to the match zone to the all different kinds of defenses that Dennis has thrown out at these teams. The 1-3-1, the 2-2-1, whatever it is. They've had success on the defensive end of things a lot better than they've had in weeks past, and especially against Kansas too. But I think it's been really encouraging to see this team rebound. The only thing I worry about, and not after the conversation with Kobe, the only thing that I was thinking of was like, how it's big to beat a Kentucky. You're up here after beating a Kentucky. How do you go after beating a Kentucky and not have the letdown, especially in a rivalry game?
But losing this game, I mean, Missouri's supposed to lose this game. If they lose this game, so what? Like that's the difference in basketball and football season. Is football, like every game is a referendum. The best team in college basketball is going to lose 5 times this year, or probably
at least, yeah.
Right. I mean, you want to see them be competitive, but if they go lose at Arkansas, that changes nothing about what we think about this team, in my opinion.
I think as long as they kind of stick to their game plan, I think what we saw them do in the Kansas game was go completely away from what they had been doing the entire first part of the season, which was scoring a lot in transition. Like we were in transition, we were trying to pull up threes instead of taking the ball to the hoop. I mean, you watched it and you were kind of just like, what are they doing? Why is this different than what they've been doing?
Also, like Kansas deserves some credit for that. I mean, absolutely. Kansas is a very good team who played very well on that day and forced Missouri out a little bit. I mean, it's interesting you bring up the transition threes. I was telling people during the Kentucky game and the Illinois game, really, I think Demoy Hodge is my favorite Missouri player in a decade. Like that, he doesn't care if it's 1-on-4. He doesn't care if he's 27 feet from the bat. Like that dude is shooting the ball. And it's just like, whatever, man, I'm probably going to make it. And if I don't make it, that's cool, because I'm going to get another chance to make it in like 16 seconds.
Wasn't there something that you posted about, Gabe? I don't remember when you posted it, but I'm an avid Power Mizzou reader. Wasn't there something that you said that Dennis Gates said that he wants guys that are going to shoot the ball?
Yeah. He said at some point, I can't remember if it was preseason or like a couple weeks into the year, but he told us, he said, I will pull guys for not shooting. He said, if guys don't take an open shot, I'm going to bench them. And then when their mom calls and asks why they're not playing as much as they should, I'm going to say, because he won't shoot. So like I was talking to somebody that was covering the game on Saturday that has seen Missouri play, but hasn't been at every game. And he said, just amazed they're so good offensively because they take so many bad shots. And I said, but to them, they aren't bad shots. Like they're just like, hey, I want you to take this shot because it's open. And if it doesn't go in, then I want you to take the next one too.
Yeah, I think that's been huge. Demoy Hodge is very fun to watch. When you talk about your favorite Missouri player, recent memory comes up Cassius Robertson for me. Dude was fun to watch. It was kind of the same play style, even too. Very much the same vibes. This team is, even when I asked Kobe about who's the guy you don't want to see one-on-one, he listed the whole roster. It's just like, yeah, these guys are all good one-on-one. They got a lot of good one-on-one players. And And he even made the point of saying, like, in those late game shot clock situations, we don't really worry who has the ball because we know a lot of those guys can take care of it. And I feel that way too. When you see the ball, you see, Dre Golson has it. You're like, okay, this dude's going to pull up from mid-range, hit this mid-range jumper. Everything will be okay. Nick Honor, he can find his way to the rack. I just really like the guard play. Sean East had a really good game again. I mean, that's something that I think has been Missouri didn't have that last year, right? Is a guard. And now they have two good ones. It's just like one of the 2-point guards that you can bring the ball up the floor. You feel confident with the ball in their hands. This is like something that is a breath of fresh air after what Missouri fans have been through the last couple of years.
I just looked it up. So in terms of non-steal turnovers, that's basically an unforced error, right? Like a travel, you throw the ball, whatever. The other team didn't take the ball away. You gave it away. Last year, these numbers might not be exact because I looked them up this morning, but last year they were somewhere around 326th in the country. This year they're 15th.
Wow.
I mean, to play the pace they play and turn it over as little as they are turning it over. And there are parts of it. That's one of them that makes you say, is this sustainable? I mean, I thought after the Kentucky game, John Calipari brought up a pretty good point. He said, look, we had 5 straight open threes and we didn't make any of them. He said, we don't have to make all of them, but you got to make 1 or 2. And if you rewatch that first half, Kentucky had some open shots, right? Like, I don't know if the defense was exceptional because they're going, and what happened against KU was KU hit those shots. And so sometimes basketball is way less complicated than we make it, right? If you make the open shot, you're probably pretty good. And if your opponent makes the open shot, you're probably pretty bad. So there's something to be said for that. But I would say last week was probably the most fun a Missouri basketball fan has had in 5 years. Right, since you thought Michael Porter was going to play.
Well, didn't we say, we basically said we needed one of those 4 wins, right? We said, we were most likely going to get the UCF win, which we did, but we said we needed one of them. I mean, we got 3 of them. Like, what more can you really ask for of this team? I mean, of course, you would like to be competitive when you play your biggest rival, but I mean, they're a top 5 in the country basketball team. It's not the end of the world. I'm more excited about the way that they've rebounded from that loss more than anything. Because if that's what it took to get this type of gameplay, I'll take that loss, all the time. Not all the time, because then you know what I mean.
I mean, I think you would definitely say, okay, you lose to Kansas by 28 and turn it around to make the NCAA tournament, which, by the way, I think is the expectation now. You would much rather have that than you beat Kansas and you were 17-15 playing in the NIT. I mean, there are some people who would say, no, I'd rather have the second one, but that's
crazy.
A bad take.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. And if you're thinking that, you're listening to this podcast right now, come on, man. Get it together.
I thought you were going to say don't listen anymore.
No.
No. You
well,
can
they might
listening.
not. Now that I just told them to get
Keep
together,
listening.
they might not listen anymore. But
you can keep listening. Looking ahead, Arkansas just taking an L to LSU, 60-57. That was at LSU. They dropped 4 spots in the AP poll to 13. Missouri obviously coming off of that win from Kentucky. They go to number 20 in the AP poll. I talked a little bit to Kobe about that, just being in the AP poll. It's kind of a big thing for this program, especially not a lot of expectations coming into the season for this program. Then to be AP ranked, I think is big. I know Dennis Gates is going on, John Rothstein's podcast. Like Dennis is turning into one of these guys that everyone's wanting to talk to. Everyone's wanting to talk about. So now Missouri's becoming a national story. Good to see they got Arkansas is obviously the big one this week. Then they have Vandy on Saturday. Missouri should handle business against Vandy. Gabe, you still think coming through this last little conference stretch, I guess you could say, they got to split them? You think they got to split them to make the tournament still?
I think 1-1 is a good week this week. I look at Missouri's schedule. There's not a single game I look at and say, well, they can't win that, right? Yeah. I mean, at Arkansas on Wednesday is one of their 2 toughest remaining games of the season. But, like, you could see a world where Missouri goes down and wins that game, especially because Arkansas's got some injuries. But on the flip side, there's only 2 games I look at and say I would be stunned if Missouri lost. That's Vandy at home and South Carolina at home. And like Arkansas just lost at LSU. Tennessee almost lost at Ole Miss. And this is conference basketball. Like, there are no gimmies here, right? You know, I mean, so this team is still, how good this season is, I think, is less determined by can you win in Fayetteville than can you win in Oxford or Starkville or Athens. You know, that's what separates good teams from great teams, is if you can go 5-4 on the road, or even 4-5 on the road, and then you can come home and go 8-1, like, then you start talking about 5 seed. You know, what are we here? But those conference road games are no gimme at some of those places.
Well, we hate playing in Mississippi. I mean, if you've watched us over the past few years play at Ole Miss and in Starkville, I mean, it's been pretty bad. So, no, I agree, Gabe. I think that will be a true test of where this program is going heading into the tournament, I think, is winning those games that you're supposed to win, regardless of where they are.
But, like, it's wild that it's January 2nd and we're talking about Missouri in the NCAA tournament like a foregone conclusion. And I get it. I think we should be. I mean, that's where they position themselves. But anybody that's – I don't think Dennis Gates' wife thought they would be this good. I mean, I don't know. I've never spoken to her. Maybe she did.
Yeah.
She can call in if she's listening. Right. Let us know what you think.
We'll give you the line. We'll give you the backdoor line. You can call in. I think you're right. We talked about this a lot with just like the roster composition. You looked at the roster and like, okay, all these guys were playing mid-major. How can they compete at the SEC level? Well, they're showing it right now how they can compete at the SEC level. There was a talent gap between Kentucky and Missouri, but that didn't matter because they've been playing up and been playing very well. Kobe Brown being a big part of that. If Kobe Brown has another big day, I think that it's almost all but certain that Missouri wins if Kobe Brown plays really well. You can almost look at it that 30? Way. Not even 30. Like, he could score probably 15, 20. And I think
if you have multiple guys coming off the bench scoring 12 points apiece, like Sean East and Jerry Golson did this week, and then, you have Demoy Hodge, who added 15 from a starter. I mean, you have those great chances to win those games no matter who you're playing. Because Kobe's not going to go for 30 every game. It's just I would love for him to do that.
He's gone for 30 every game for 2 straight games though.
Yeah. I mean, if he wants to add a third in Fayetteville, I'm not going to be mad.
Steph Curry done that? I don't know. We'll have to figure it out.
I think he's the only one. He's the only one that's gone for 3 in a row. I read that on
That doesn't surprise me.
Shameless plug. Yeah. Another shameless plug.
Well, I'm excited for Mizzou basketball for the first time since Michael Porter Jr. tried to play against Iowa State. I think we've established that, but it should be a good week of basketball to watch if you're a Missouri fan. Now, let's flip sports here. Let's talk about some college football. College football playoff national championship is on Monday. I also had some news from the Missouri football program. Brady Cook underwent shoulder surgery on his throwing shoulder, will miss spring ball, suffered the injury, I believe the release said, suffered the injury in week 2 versus Kansas State. So I know go ahead.
Like, I think it's important to say, this was not a situation, I think, where Eli Drinkwitz was throwing out a guy who should not have been on the field. Like, the way this works is coaches go to the team doctor and say, can he hurt it worse if he keeps playing? And if the doctor says no, then the coach goes to the player and says, look, they said you can't hurt it any worse. You're going to have surgery at some point. You can have surgery now, or you can play with this thing as well as you can play with it, and then you can have surgery after the season. And I'm not going to say that a torn labrum didn't affect the way Brady played. I mean, I would assume it had some effect on him, but I don't think this was anybody that's saying, well, Drinkwitz is screwing his guy by putting him out there with the torn labrum. I don't think that was the case. I think your complaint about this is if you have one should be, so he didn't have anybody that he thought was better than Brady Cook with the torn shoulder. That's a valid complaint, but he was endangering Brady Cook's health by playing him. I don't think I mean, look, maybe there's something I don't know, but unless something else comes out, I don't think that's valid.
But so we obviously know that he's going to miss spring ball.
Yep.
Does this maybe put a little thought into Mizzou fans' minds that he will not be the starting quarterback next year? Do you think we should like
wait,
consider that?
Wait, that thought has not been in their minds before because
well, they wanted him
every day.
They wanted him to. They wanted Sam Horn to start over a healthy Brady Cook. But now that they know, I mean, do you think this changes things? Maybe.
I think it gives Sam Horn 3 weeks where he gets every rep with the number one offense, and it is let's see what you got.
Yeah.
This is his chance this is his chance to go win the job while Brady can't do anything about it. Now, I would be surprised if we come out of spring football and Drinkwitz names a starting quarterback. I don't think he will do that. But yeah, I mean, if I had to bet Tucker's money, I would bet on Sam Horn being the starting quarterback. I wouldn't bet my money, but
I'm trying to think. Because Jabari Johnson's not going to be.
He's the only scholarship quarterback for spring football as of.
Okay. That's what I was trying to think of because I didn't think they had anybody else on scholarship at quarterback position. So it's almost like for spring
because
football,
Macon's gone too.
He's literally going to get every snap with the ones unless Tommy Locke season, baby. Great spring, Tommy Locke.
Wouldn't put it past the Locke family. No, it's really interesting. Another part of me is thinking, okay, so Missouri's for sure getting a transfer quarterback then. That just is the one thing that I keep going to is that like, yeah, does Eli Drinkwitz need to kind of ride with his guy Sam Horn? Probably. But does he want to kind of I don't know. There's a lot going on here. I think there's a lot of layers to this of like if they do get a transfer quarterback, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for Sam Horn. I don't think that spells disaster because that might literally just be a numbers game at this point. To only have one quarterback in spring ball, a scholarship quarterback in spring ball is not great, but it's a good opportunity for Sam Horn.
I asked him that leading up to the bowl game because
I remember,
I kind of knew that this was going to happen with Brady at some point. And so I asked him if he was going to take a guy just to have, bodies. And his answer was, I'm not going to take a guy just to have numbers. Like, we got 3 quarterbacks. That's enough. If I take a guy, it's going to be a guy I think can help us win. Now, is that some coach speak? It might be. I mean, I still would lean toward they probably take a transfer quarterback, but you're right. There's a lot of moving parts. And again, it all just comes back to, it doesn't matter who the starting literally the starting quarterback can be Tommy Locke if he wants it to be. He just has to be right. That's it. He has to be right.
Right. And so we talk about this with the new quarterback potentially coming to Missouri. You look at kind of the situation with TCU. They're now in the national championship. Sonny Dykes essentially picked the wrong quarterback at first, right? And it was only for him to get hurt to realize that he picked the wrong quarterback. A guy who was a runner-up of the Heisman was their second string quarterback this year to start the season. So, Gabe, as you mentioned, doesn't really matter who he names the starting quarterback as long as he's right with it. But Gabe, you brought up an interesting point before we started to record kind of about TCU making the national championship and if it gives any hope to like Missouri or a program like Missouri and a Missouri equivalent to make a national championship. I want to get your thoughts on that.
I kind of go both ways. Like, I think people have to understand this is legitimately unprecedented what TCU has done.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever done this. Their average recruiting ranking over the previous 5 classes is 40. Like, they had 2 classes in the 60s. I've gone back and looked before, and I don't think there's ever been a team at least since 2000 in the Rivals era play for a national title that didn't have at least one top 10 class. Wow. And TCU's best class is 24. If you take Michigan, Ohio State, and Georgia, the worst class any one of them has over that time period is 24. So the very worst recruiting class of any of the other teams would be TCU's best class. So, like, I don't think you can point to something that's literally happened once and say, see, that's why we can do it. But it does prove it's not impossible. The difference, I think, is, like, people always said, well, Boise deserves a shot because Boise earned it. And I always said, well, but like, you can get up once to beat Oklahoma, but the hard part about being in the SEC or the Big Ten, and I think those two are clearly different than the rest at this point. The hard part is getting up to beat that Ohio State one week, but then the next week you got to come back and beat Minnesota. And the week after that, you got to go beat Penn State. It's different than having to get up to play your best game twice in a year. You have to do it 7 or 8 times. Like if TCU was in the SEC, they have a good team. They're 10-2. I don't think they're 13-1. And I don't think that's bashing the Big 12 to say.
Well, if you watched that K-State Alabama game and you just watch them, like the D linemen of Alabama line up against the offensive line of K-State, I mean, there was a huge size factor, talent, size, whatever, and it ended up coming through on the scoreboard. This K-State team just beat TCU. I mean, I agree. I just think that if you're playing these teams repetitively, and I'm not trying to be an SEC cheerleader by any means, because, I don't care if they win or lose. But there is a difference, and you kind of have to recognize that a little bit if you're going to be watching college football every week.
But that's also the beauty of the playoff is TCU doesn't have to be a better team than Michigan. They just have to be a better team than Michigan for 60 minutes, right? Yep. And
exactly.
So I think the thing, and Tucker and I talked about this a little bit before Maggie got on, the thing that should give you hope is not that TCU did this, but that TCU did this, and oh, by the way, 8 more teams every year are going to get a shot at this.
Yeah.
Those 2 games on Saturday were the best possible, and the Sugar Bowl actually was the best possible argument for an expanded playoff, because it proved for all the people that said, well, TCU can never win a game in the playoff. Well, they did. For all the teams that say it'll just be number 1 every year, number 1 probably should have gotten beat. Yeah. Right? For all the people that say, well, if you're not in the top 4, you can't win the title. Tell me Alabama can't win the title. Alabama, I think, might be favored if they were playing in the title game next week.
It's a really interesting conversation with the expanded playoff. You got to get to the number 12 now to get in. That's a little bit more realistic for the Missouris of the world to get to number 12 than it is to maybe number 4 in the country. I think it's a good move. Obviously, I think it's a good move for the NCAA moving forward. They do the playoffs in every other level of football. They do the FCS, they do Division II, Division III. It's all playoffs. I know,
and in every other NCAA sport too.
Right. Yes, and I think it's the bowl system that kind of throws it all off. I think that was the big conversation, where how were the bowls and how was the playoff system going to work together. I'm still curious to see how they're going to all work together. So if you win in the first round of the playoffs, are you the Fiesta Bowl champion? Like, does it work that way? Or
do we care though?
I don't think so. I don't think you do care. But that's a lot of money in the bowl games. You got people whose whole lives revolve around 1 day a year, 1 week a year, I should say. I'll be generous. And so I think that's a big, interesting conversation, and it does give hope to Missouri that if they can get some talent on the field, they can string some wins together, they can have a good run like TCU did. And let's not act like I've been a big TCU fan since the beginning of the season. I think since like week 3, I started to hop on the TCU bandwagon. They had some lucky games. They happened to have Spencer Sanders going out of the game. You had Jalen Daniels go out of the game. Will Howard got hurt twice, I think, in the game against when they played him the first time, and they had to get Jake Rubley, the backup quarterback for Kansas State, when they played Kansas State the first time. Baylor's quarterback out. So they've had a lot of lucky things happen to them, but you have to have a lot of things.
Georgia had the best player on Ohio State's team get hurt on Saturday.
Yes.
Yes. You don't win a title without some luck.
Exactly. Think about the Chiefs. The Chiefs had a lot of luck that they didn't have to face the Patriots in their run to the title.
I just can't imagine watching college football and saying, no, I don't want 8 more teams to have a shot to play in games like that. Like,
right.
I mean, I guess the only reason I can think is you just don't like fun, because the only argument I've heard because imagine 9 more games of what we got Saturday. And yes, there are going to be some blowouts. They're not all going to be great games. But if the argument is, well, I don't think this team can win, I mean, and that's legitimately the whole reason they play games. Because sometimes the team that's not supposed to win does.
Right. I would be interesting to see how it happens. I know, I believe it was Nicole Arbach for The Athletic wrote a piece about would they move week 0 up a week? How would they fit all of these games in with the playoffs and everything? I know that for NCAA Division II, they start, I think, a week or so earlier, just so they can fit the playoffs in, but they get done. They play less games. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out, the puzzle piece, but it's going to be for the best. Is that next year or the year after?
Year after, I think. But you know why they're going to figure it out? Because they're going to get that first check for infinity $billion and go, I don't know, man. If we got to play on Tuesday night, then we're just going to play on Tuesday night.
It was weird this year too, with NFL being on New Year's Day. It was like, wait, this is supposed to be college football. This is supposed to be college football day. That was kind of an odd thing. But now that the NFL is starting to encroach on Black Friday too, this was a gentleman's agreement that they're not being very courteous towards. Black Friday was supposed to be college football. Now we got everything on Black Friday.
Just give me a football game every day between Christmas and New Year's, and I'm happy. I don't really care, college or pro, whatever level it is. I will probably watch it.
But I hate that they're having multiple good games on. So we had all these days when bowls started. What, December 15, 16, 17, sometime in there. We have all these like games or days where there's like just one bowl game or something like that. And then you put all of them in the same day, and some of them are even overlapping. Like we were talking about, we didn't get to watch Kentucky, Iowa, which wasn't an enjoyable game anyways. But it's like, you don't even need to overlap these games. Just spread them out a little bit.
I just feel bad for all the kids on Georgia and TCU who didn't get to play their bowl game before Christmas. That's all I'm saying.
But you know what? Looking back now, like the rumor about how we didn't want to play in the Liberty Bowl because we didn't want to miss the Kentucky game. Looking back, good decision. If that's even a factor.
I'm not sure I'd really go run to sign up to play Jalen Daniels. He looked okay in that game.
Yeah, he did. Second half, Jalen Daniels looked a little bit better than the first half.
He broke the Liberty Bowl record, and then they put the ball in Jason Bean's hands to win to tie the game. I was like, he just broke the record. What are you doing? That was wild play call. I was shocked.
Pretty sure Jason Bean could have ran the ball into. Like, I don't know if he had anyone with an angle, but there's
he had somebody wide open. He had somebody wide open in the end zone. He overthrew the end zone by like 10 yards. It was wild.
It was
if you didn't watch it, it was wild.
It was a crazy game. That stadium, the Liberty Bowl Stadium, is not a good stadium for anything. They should not host a bowl game there. That town of Memphis.
People couldn't even drink water. There was like a boil order the entire time they were there.
If you're in Memphis and listening to this podcast, I'm sorry, but town's not very good. The only thing you got going for you is
I just want to clear that was Tucker. As somebody who gets in trouble for crapping on cities, that was not me.
Are you talking about the Bass Pro?
Oh, I'm talking about the Bass Pro Pyramid. That's what I'm talking about. That's the only good thing in Memphis. And Penny Hardaway. That's the only good. That's my list of good things in Memphis.
Elvis.
Oh,
I'm saying Elvis. I'm sorry.
Fine.
I mean,
honorable mention Elvis.
Yeah, honorable mention.
Honorable mention Elvis.
Alive Elvis or dead Elvis?
I mean, whatever.
He's still alive, obviously.
Yeah.
Him
and Tupac hanging out somewhere.
Yep. He's frozen underneath Disney World with Walt Disney. I'm sure of it. All right. Well, this has been an episode.
I feel like we're officially at the end.
Yeah.
We've run out of things to talk about, which is probably a good thing. I'm sure we'll have more things to talk about next week when we convene here. Maybe we'll have another basketball player on. Depends on if Kobe Brown drops another 30 points or not. So we will talk to you guys next week. Thank you for listening all the way to the end of the podcast. Let us know what you think about the podcast. Leave us a like, subscribe on the KCSNU YouTube channel. Give us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast that offer rating systems. We will be back next week. Talk a little more Zoo hoops and maybe some college football if we do get any more news. But who knows? Football is king, so they do like to stay in the news cycle. So I would not be surprised if we have some college football news. So regardless, we will talk to you guys next week. Thanks for listening.